Can you hear me? I'm not very good at that podium, so I'm actually going to stand over here. So very humbled to be here, very exciting to be kicking off this from the public perspective. So why are we here tonight? I think that is a question that many of you have asked, and a lot of you have seen the material here that we have today. But our team is just now kicking off this process. And so we wanted to just say we are here to listen. We're here to understand the lived experience of people that live, work, and play in downtown Baton Rouge and beyond. That is our core intention, is to make sure that this is a plan for everyone. We're here to learn from those experiences to help inform the planning process. And we're here to inform you, what does a downtown plan mean? What does it do to a community? And we're here to meet you. Hopefully you come back again, you like what you see, and you want to engage more in this process. And so my face, my team's face should be familiar to you. Ultimately, this plan is yours. This is not the Sasaki plan. This is the community of Baton Rouge's plan, and we can't stress that enough. When we say downtown, this is the boundary that we're talking about. Over 1,000 acres of land from north of the Capitol Lake, just so everybody knows, this is the river, that's north. North of the Capitol Lake, south of the interstate, east of I-110. This is a very large area that makes up a number of different neighborhoods that make up it. It has the state capitol in it. It has this wonderful facility in it. This is a remarkable opportunity to plan the true heart of the larger region. And so from here on out, as we talk about downtown, this is the study area that we're talking about. As we embark on this process, I actually have an ask of you. We want you to be an advocate of this process. You may not agree with everything we say, but we need you to support the process so that we can ensure that we get it right. We need you to be a megaphone. Tell everybody about this process. Go to our website, share it on social media. All of your voices can amplify this process to ensure that we hear from as many folks as possible. And we want you to be a facilitator. Talk to your friends, your neighbors tonight. Learn what their perspectives are, and together we can co-create the vision for Plan Baton Rouge III. We do have a live website that's going to have a live survey on it that has all of this information and more on online tonight. And so we offer you, and we hope that you can share this as broadly as possible. So you're probably wondering, who is this guy talking about cities on the stage? This is what I do for a living, so it's quite wonderful. But I'm with a firm called Sasaki. We are the prime consultant directly contracted through the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. But we have a wonderful group of local and national consultants that we work with all the time. Some of which are here tonight. We have JLBD, who focuses on market economics and urban finance. We have Franklin Associates, who helped curate this wonderful event tonight. We have CSRS, a local planning and engineering firm, Trahan Architects, our design collaborator, and Vectura for transportation and traffic. And this is the group that is responsible for this vision. For Sasaki, the reason why I do this, the reason I'm here tonight, is me and my team really work across the spectrum of city planning. We work from regional plans all the way down to district scale plans, the design of buildings, the design of public spaces. And so we care immensely about human habitat and what it means to create a wonderful place. We also specialize in downtown planning in a lot of cities very similar to Baton Rouge. So recently we completed the downtown Little Rock master plan, we worked on the downtown Greenville plan, the downtown Raleigh plan. Many of these places, capital cities that are on riverfronts that have similar populations and contend with similar issues. And so we're looking to bring best practices from around the country to Baton Rouge to move forward with that plan. When we talk about downtowns, we like to talk about it through the lens of an ecosystem. What does it mean to create a vibrant place? Downtown plans require us to talk about entertainment, events, food and beverage operations. They require us to talk about housing, office, workforce, arts, and civic aspects in public realm. And all of those things together is what create the collective and lived memory of the people that work and live and play in downtown. And all of these things work together. And so this is a complex planning process that's going to require us to think about the broad spectrum of things that make up our city and plan for the future of all of those elements. So what does this process look like? As Chris said, over the next 9 to 12 months, we'll be having a number of community conversations. Right now, we're at the very beginning, where our team is diving into the existing conditions, making sure that we're listening to you tonight to ensure that, did we get it right? Are we talking about the right things? We want to understand what are the things that are most important to you. And that is going to help us drive into the second phase of work, which is really about the big ideas and the visioning, the big swings that make up this plan. Those might be public realm ideas, those might be urban redevelopment ideas, those might be policy ideas. But the goal is to develop that big framework. From there, we'll then be moving into a detailed process where we're talking about specific things, projects, policies, partnerships, things that truly, sort of change the mechanics of the city. Each step of this process will be coming back to the community and ensuring that we're listening, we're asking you for your priorities and making sure that we're getting it right. What are the pieces of the downtown master plan? The pieces of this process really are an opportunity for you to share your vision for tomorrow, and then for our team to work through what is the roadmap for investment? What are the detailed sort of policies, projects, and partnerships that make up this? What does day one look like versus 10 years from now, 15 years from now? These are long-term plans, but they need realistic day one actions. And so we'll be working through all of that in this process. To drive home the point of why we do this and why BRAF has embarked on this, and apologize for this, the screen's a little blurry, but this is the third iteration of this plan. And the first two were wildly successful in terms of implementation. We don't see these kind of numbers around the country. The fact that 80% of projects that were identified in Plan Baton Rouge 1 and 2 were implemented is crazy. That's a remarkable thing. $500 million in public funding that resulted in $1.5 billion in private funding. Those are incredible returns on investment from the planning process. And so as you think about Plan Baton Rouge 3, let's think big. Let's think about what we can do so that 15, 20 years from now, somebody else is standing up on a stage saying, look at what Plan Baton Rouge 3 did. What the previous two plans did is very tangible as well. The wealth of public space that exists just outside the door, those things were identified in the plan. The ideas and the partnerships and the implementation strategy were identified in those plans. And so these are opportunities for us to say, what do we really want our city to look like years from now? The idea to move state office workers and consolidate them in downtown came from Plan Baton Rouge 1. That brought huge amounts of jobs to the downtown area and has changed the economy of downtown forever. And so real tangible economic development results come from these processes. For us, starting a downtown plan means being true to the essence of place. Baton Rouge is a river city. It has and always will be. And it started on this remarkable river, and we should think of how can we celebrate this asset. As Chris said, the idea of being the most vibrant downtown on the Mississippi, that's an incredible charge, but it's truly possible. The Mississippi River is a remarkable, remarkable asset. And our team's incredibly excited to think about what makes Baton Rouge special, think about realistic things that we can do along the riverfront to truly make this a world-class place. We also want to stress that this is a downtown plan for the broader region. Downtown is the economic heart of the larger metropolitan area, and so it is everybody's downtown. And so whether you live in East Baton Rouge Parish, whether you live in downtown, whether you live a mile away or 20 miles away, this is your downtown, and this is an opportunity for us to think how this plan can support what you need. We also want to ensure that this is uniquely Baton Rouge. Downtown has a remarkable character to it, whether it's the residential neighborhoods that exist in Beauregard Town, Spanish Town, the beautiful sort of eclectic architecture, the little pink flamingos, like all of those things make character of downtown, and a good plan should be authentic to its place. We like to think about the past. We use the sort of lessons learned from the past to ultimately inform the future. We like to think about the economic engines of downtown and how those drive decisions that people make on a daily life. And we want to work with you all to define what the future is together. We want to think about, things that aren't there today. I mean, this used to be a giant office building, and now it's a thriving residential community. transformation can happen, and it can happen in Baton Rouge, and we're very, very excited to be a part of that. And so our initial analysis, which is outside on the boards tonight, I'm going to run through very quickly. We've structured it around these 6 themes: history, people, market, land, links, and character. And each one of these, we're sort of asking ourselves a critical question about what is the data telling us, and we want you to tell us if we got it right or not. For history, what's really exciting is downtown actually has a remarkable link to its historic development. When you look at the sort of patterns of land parcelization, the block sizes, the intact historic neighborhoods, downtown Baton Rouge is actually doing pretty good. It's incredible to walk through Beauregard Town or Spanish Town and turn the corner, and outside of that neighborhood, it feels completely different. That eclecticism is something that's really something to be built off of. There's also sort of hidden gems, like Beauregard. This is a crazy plan of Beauregard Town at one point in time that has had lasting impacts. Even though not everything was built from that plan, it has had lasting impacts on the diagonal streets that kind of run through that neighborhood. When we think about how those impact today, they impact block size, they impact the way that land is actually parcelized and what type of buildings can actually fit on those places. When we think about decisions over time, like the decision to run I-110, all of these have major impacts. But what's really exciting about downtown Baton Rouge is that a lot of that history is still intact, and it's just not told in quite the same way or quite the way that it could be. And so our team's really looking forward to diving into the patterns of historic neighborhoods and buildings and assets to really link them together. And so, our critical question here is how does downtown Baton Rouge reveal and leverage and celebrate its history in a way that makes it more present? The next theme, people, is really understanding the sort of population who lives and works in this area. In the study area, there's just shy of 4,000 residents, which is under 1% of the parish's population. And you can see some of those other statistics here. And this presents a real opportunity. Speaking from experience and how this compares to other places, downtown Baton Rouge has room to grow. There was a remarkable sort of growth in the residential population that happened in sort of 2010 to 2020, but it's really sort of leveled off, and there's an opportunity to really extend residential growth, even doubling or tripling the population of downtown, and that brings so much positive energy. And so when we look at how downtown relates to some of the peer cities like Little Rock or like Montgomery, or aspirational cities like Austin, you can see the sort of growth projections there. From a diversity perspective, downtown actually has a great starting point. Everybody knows that, actually I'm going to go back real quick, everybody knows that Baton Rouge has struggled with a history of segregation, but what's really exciting is that when you look at the demographic patterns in downtown, they actually don't follow the same patterns that the broader city parish does. And so there's a real opportunity to celebrate the city's diversity in downtown. Our team's also looking at the patterns of development, the housing pockets that exist in downtown, and some of the new projects that are being built, and really understanding what is missing. What is the type of missing ingredient, such as student housing or senior living, that doesn't actually happen in downtown, and how can we build that into the plan? We're also looking at the supporting ecosystem of housing and the food and beverage operations, or the types of events and where those happen, and really understanding the nuanced connection between, everything in yellow is really where people live, and everything in other colors is where people do other things, and really trying to understand how do we actually blend that together in a better way. And so as we think about people, really ensuring that we're taking a stance of kind of making the market. And when I say that, I mean really building an environment that attracts people to want to be in downtown is a critical aspect of this project. From an economics perspective, what our team's really been focused on is understanding those sort of population numbers and how they start to impact the way that we look at data. And this is everything from rental rates of apartment buildings to understanding the ratio of numbers of workers. And our team's taking a perspective where we look at peer cities to make sure that our numbers are where they should be. And what's really interesting, as you start to see, is that when you compare downtown Baton Rouge to places like Little Rock and Montgomery, we're actually less of a population. We're a bigger city than downtown or Little Rock, and we have a smaller population than downtown, which means there's an opportunity to really grow. One of the things that's critical to understanding is the broader kind of economic trends of Baton Rouge as a broader region as we think about the market and economics of this plan. One of the things that Baton Rouge has had as a development pattern for many, many decades is a movement away from the downtown area towards the southern portion of the parish, which means Baton Rouge is a polycentric city. That's what we call it. It's a very sort of heady planning term, but what that means is that there are multiple centers of gravity within the parish. And so downtown isn't necessarily the only concentration of jobs and shopping. And so that means we need to think a little bit differently. How does Baton Rouge, or how does downtown work with that broader ecosystem is really critical to this study. We're also looking within the study area at concentrations of jobs and how they relate to things like shopping and food and beverage operations, and making sure that the connection between where people are on a day-to-day basis and where they want to be is thought about. This is a very detailed slide, but I just wanted to make sure that folks understood that we are diving into the details in every way we possibly can, making sure we understand how much does it cost to rent an apartment, what is the vacancy rate that exists. All of those data points, which I'm not going to talk about in specifics, really do influence this planning effort. So I encourage you to dive into the boards that are outside if you're more interested in that. And so, the goal with all of this is to really ensure that downtown is the economic heart of the region. And so we're really taking a stance of how do we make the market with this plan. When we talk about land or the sort of physical location of the city, we have to come back to the city or to the river. It's a remarkable asset, and it truly is one of downtown Baton Rouge's greatest opportunities for investment. What our team has done is really look at the almost 2 miles of waterfront from a typological perspective, really understanding what are the barriers to access, what is the grade change, what is the flooding conditions, what are the regulatory constraints that exist at any point in time along the river. Those are out on the boards today, but just to really dive into a little bit of detail, what we're trying to understand is as we think about how do we get people from downtown to the waterfront to experience that, what are the hurdles, both regulatory and physical, to make that happen? As we think about the relationship to adjacent uses, like the River Center, how do we think about the symbiosis between a redevelopment of that project and site and the riverfront itself? All great opportunities. Also, when we talk about public space and land, we've looked at a broad spectrum of programmatic uses from across the area to understand what is missing from downtown. We've gone through and mapped where the existing parks are, how they're all connected together. And one of the key things with downtown is that it's actually missing some of those quality of life spaces that are critical to make a thriving environment. And so, for example, there's really not a lot of sort of community park assets that exist within downtown. There's a little less sort of public space than there really should be when we think about attracting a residential population. And so, with this plan, we're going to be laser focused on ensuring that we're celebrating the natural asset of the river and building in a larger connection to the broader recreational system across downtown. When we think about transportation, everybody knows, how many of you drove here tonight? Basically everybody, yeah. Downtown's a city that drives, we shouldn't pretend that we're not. But when we think about connectivity to surrounding areas, there's a real opportunity to really think slightly differently. And so our team's going to be really focused on understanding those patterns. It's a real struggle, but there are opportunities to connect to places with future BRT plans that exist and connect to assets like LSU and Southern in ways that will really make a difference in how people move around. Our team is trying to focus on the routes that exist within downtown, the users that exist there, and to ensure that we're tying together, again, the land use and development potential with transportation systems. We're also digging into parking. Parking is a critical aspect of the success of downtown, and ensuring that we're understanding where parking is, how it's operated, who owns it, how do we access the spaces around it. And so this map starts to pinpoint all the public spaces and a 2.5-minute walk from those facilities, and you start to see gaps in the system. At the same time, there is a huge percentage of the downtown area that's actually covered in surface parking, and so it's really just how is it used. There's also barriers in downtown that really impact the way people move through, and so we'll be diving into that system throughout this process. And all of this is to ensure that downtown is truly connected to the surrounding neighborhoods. And ultimately, our goal with this process is to really figure out how we start to truly make downtown a more accessible place for all. And then the last theme, this character theme, is really building off of the idea that downtown is made up of a collection of neighborhoods. It's very exciting to see the different characters that exist there. And what our team's really been focused on is understanding the use, the economics of each one of those, and really trying to understand when it's all aggregated together, is it meeting the right type of use that makes a vibrant downtown? And the short answer to that is there's room for growth, there's room for improvement as we think about the percentage of land use. Really this number of residential right now, 18% of the land use in downtown is residential. That should really be closer to 35–40% in order to get a vibrant sort of environment. That's what you really see around the country. But there's room to grow. There's a lot of undeveloped land. There's a lot of surface parking. There's a lot of open space that is not necessarily programmed. And so that's a good thing. There's a good opportunity to really fill in a lot of space without causing, without needing to grow to 40, 50 stories. What we've done is really understand each one of these neighborhoods in its own context. These are just a few diagrams which I encourage you to look at out in the atrium, but really understanding what makes each one of these special, what are the constraints that exist from a zoning and regulatory perspective in each one of these areas, and ultimately what are the opportunities for development in each one of these areas. We're also looking at special buildings. What are the feature elements that exist within the downtown area that truly make downtown special, and how can we ensure that this planning process celebrates and adds to that? And so all of this is to ensure that the plan that we have is unique to the neighborhoods that exist within downtown and authentic to Baton Rouge as a place. And so what's next? We're going to take the feedback that you give us tonight, work through some of these aspirational questions that are out on the board and that I went through in this presentation, and we're going to use that to develop master plan values. From there, that's going to help us develop the plan frameworks. Those are the things that truly make the plan unique to itself. And so we really encourage you to dive into the content tonight, fill out the survey, engage with your colleagues and engage with my staff, and really make sure that we're listening to this process. And so I'll bring this slide up again. I'm asking you to be an advocate, a megaphone, and a facilitator. And so I need everybody to nod their head and say we're going to do that. Okay. And so I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. We're going to have all of the questions and conversation happen out in the atrium so that we can ensure that we're hearing from as many people as possible. And so I just want to thank you all for coming tonight, and let's go talk.
Our message is simple. We're here to listen. We're here to understand the future of downtown Baton Rouge, and we're here to imagine together.
Tell us, what examples have you seen around the country that could be used in Baton Rouge?
So we really have the opportunity to work all around the country on some exciting downtown planning projects. I think what a lot of cities are trying to do is reconnect to their context, reconnect to the surrounding neighborhoods, reconnect to the riverfront. And so that's an exciting opportunity for downtown Baton Rouge to really think about the future, a future that is well connected, a future that is active, a future that is tied to its context.
Tonight was really about the first community engagement process for Plan Baton Rouge III, the kickoff to begin gathering big ideas for what this plan can look like for new investment in downtown Baton Rouge.
Why is that necessary?
Plan Baton Rouge III really builds on the success of Plans 1 and 2, which started over 20 years ago. This is a moment where we have the opportunity to really look at some critical assets like our downtown riverfront, creating more housing downtown, and really reinvesting in the connected corridors of downtown. And so we're excited to build on the legacy of the past while also putting our stamp on what the future should look like as a community.
What other communities have been successful in this area that Baton Rouge can learn from?
Yeah, I think Baton Rouge and Plan Baton Rouge III can really, build on the success both of the original plans, but also looking at our peers. Recently, the Sasaki team completed a master plan for downtown Little Rock, which, like us, sits on a river as a state capital and has a lot of the same kind of dynamics of wanting to grow housing, wanting to grow new development opportunities, entertainment opportunities to really attract people downtown. I think cities like that really are great models and peers for us to look to benchmark our success in this plan.
What would you like people to keep in mind when tonight's over?
I'd love for people to understand that this is a moment to get involved. This is really a plan for all of us, not just in the city of Baton Rouge or the parish, but frankly for our entire region, our entire state. Downtown Baton Rouge is where the state comes to do business. It's where we legislate. It's really a place for everyone to be invested in for our future. And so we really want this to be a community-held plan, a community-held vision. Get involved, planbatonrouge.com.
Well, it's absolutely regional. This is everybody's downtown, right? So we do have residents here downtown, ultra important for them, for the development. But in a major city like ourselves, to have this space and to be downtown, it affects everyone, all throughout the parish and actually beyond. This is the capital city. So if you're in Alexandria or you're in Monroe, hey, we're going to downtown Baton Rouge, this is the place to be.
What would you like people to keep in mind about how your efforts in East Baton Rouge Parish coincide with this effort tonight?
Well, what I'm excited about, just a little over 3 months in office, is the collaboration and how so many things are aligning already, with stuff like this. Certainly I have my eyes and my feet in other parts of the parish, from the north to the south to the east to the west. But we want this to be the hub. We want this to be the pride of the capital city, and everyone's working together, and we're excited about it.